I'm Murdena Marshall. I'm a retired associate professor. I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother. I was born in 1942 in Waikagma. I left Waikagma at 1 year and moved to the big centralization party that the federal government planned. And I was caught up in that. Well, when you're invited to a party, you're not going to say no. I grew up here, was educated at the day school, Indian day school until grade 9, I think. And then I went to Arishat for a year or two. Then I transferred to St. Joseph's Convent in Mabu. After high school, I got married. And everybody was gung-ho to marry me because I wasn't yet pregnant. So my father was delighted when I asked him. Holy mackerel, when, he said. Because in those days, you only need high school to survive and get married as soon as you can before you're in the family way. I decided to go back to school. And I went to a teacher's college. They have that early childhood program. But when I found out you cannot teach in a regular school program with that certificate, I think it's only 3 or something like that. Then I moved on to UNB, and there I received my Bachelor of Education degree. And then from there I moved to, I went on to Harvard and received my Master's in Administration, Planning and Social Policies. And from there, I realized the greatest need for Eskasoni was to entrap the language, to make it static so it doesn't erode any longer. So I went to St. Thomas University and graduated with a certificate program of teaching the indigenous languages and training teachers. And then I went to work for the University of CBU and was there for 18 years until I took sick. I've always been concerned about the language. I decided to prepare my education endeavors working towards and around the language. And I've been doing that. Although my master's is in administration, at the university where I worked, that wasn't a discipline I was in. So first year I did curricula, and the next year after I made the curriculum, they asked me to teach it. So I taught. Yeah, but at the end I was so beat. I had 5 classes to fulfill the need. It drained me out of my own energy and out of my own spunk. Not that I'm bragging, I'm the savior of the world, but I was able to open some of their minds. When I left, they had to replace me with 3 people. Because they drove me mad, completely mad. I haven't left Cape Breton much except for education. I enjoy Cape Breton. I enjoy the water. I was born that far from the water, I guess, a couple 100 feet. And I've always lived near water. And when I go somewhere like Calgary and there's no water around, I feel very uncomfortable and unable to sleep, and because I miss that air. Not the waves, but I miss that air coming from the sea. But Cape Breton has been my favorite spot in the world. Not having so much choices, but the places where I have been always draws me back to Cape Breton. I like the hospitality and the familiarity of the place. And we lived in Boston for a while, like mostly all Cape Bretons do. But we came home because I wanted my children to speak their own language and to recognize the most precious thing in the Mi'kmaq life, and that's family. I want them to experience their aunts and uncles and cousins and how they're connected to them. And I give my greatest credit to my grandfather. He was my mentor. Even when I was into marriage, he was still my mentor. And my aunt, Jessie Gidor, the medicine woman. Those two had the greatest impact in my life. And my other aunt, Aunt Catherine, who taught me the hieroglyphics. And another aunt taught me how to tell stories and preserve legends and all that. The Mi'kmaq language has no preposition, it has no word order, it has no gender. There are 7 pronouns that you use consistently. And there's 5 tenses. So it's, that's a dying art, of 5 tenses. They have the past, present, and future, but they're missing out on the healing tense. And they're missing out on the spiritual tense. And they're both self-healing. When you were a little kid, and you have no television, radio, or Atari, or anything like that, you listen to stories, and you tend to sit around the fire after supper and everything. Well, in the Mi'kmaq world, there was no such thing as supper, dinner, or breakfast. You eat when you're hungry. Your body dictates you. You don't dictate your body. And so when you want to go to the bathroom, you don't wait for the beep parade. You go, so you want to go. So we have these stories. Different people would come in the evenings and visit and tell stories. And I received a lot of stories from listening to my own grandparents and my own aunts and uncles. The stars were your guiding point. The constellations were your calendar. If you look up in the sky, you know what season it is by the way the constellations are arranged. They're also your guides for travel and stuff like that. Now, take for instance the constellation of the Dipper. Now, that's to teach you seasons of the year, months of the year, and how the bear is situated. Will tell you what time of the year it is, whether it's late spring or mid-summer or beginning of fall, or by the way the constellations are arranged. And the equinoxes and the solstices play an important role in you determining the movement of the earth. And so you sort of know these stories because you know them through people telling them. But as you grow up, you don't know really why they tell you these stories until you yourself began to take up an interest in the sky or night stories or astronomy. Then you begin to piece these pieces together. These stories attached to this constellation and vice versa. I have no one to thank but my family. These stories didn't come automatically. It was through experience and remembering, and because you can't when a story is told to you and it's interesting, it's hard to kick it out of your mind. No, it'll stay there. It's engraved there.